Chapter 938. Stinging Bear, Fat Tiger is right. This price should be accepted by a newbie in the bureau. Pang Tiger, shut up. Stinging Bear, Max, are you going to accept it? Xian Yuan, Max, did something happen? This was the first time Xian Yuan saw Bei Yunge appear, but he felt that something was going to happen with Bei Yunge's personality. Max, nothing. Max, it's just that my surname should be Qin. The four people in the group almost lost their grip on their phones. So this order happened to be that someone was going to attack Max's family. Crouched Eagle, Max, aren't you afraid that we'll investigate you if you expose yourself like this? These words were somewhat teasing. After all, to them, Max was just a newbie. But soon after, Max, if you're afraid, you won't send it. These words were arrogant and unruly, but surprisingly, they liked them. They also knew what Max meant by doing this. She was putting the Qin family under her protection. After sending the message, Bei Yunge put his phone back in his pocket and stopped looking at the group chat. The others were still chatting. Stinging Bear, the Qin family of Country A? Are they very famous? Crouched Eagle, whether they're famous or not, are you going to fight with Max? Stinging Bear, that was not the case. Max had become famous overnight in the industry, and many people wanted to dig up information about her. The few of them were not interested in provoking a big shot. Xian Yuan, I'll take care of this matter. You guys keep your mouths shut. The rest of them responded lazily. At the same time, Xia Luqing was still driving, waiting for an acquaintance to inform her. So, the phone rang. After Xia Luqing picked it up, she received an unexpected message. What did you say? He didn't accept this order? Xia Luqing's expression changed. She did not expect this to happen. She immediately said, "Then give me the order. I'll take it." Originally, the intermediate members would not be able to receive this order, so Xia Luqing could only ask the senior members to accept it. However, if the senior members did not accept it, it would be in line with the rules to pass it to the intermediate members. Green Heron, the order has been cancelled. The man said awkwardly. Xia Luqing suddenly braked. She felt terrible. What did you say? That person continued. The VIP member who originally accepted this order was also suspended from accepting orders for a month. This was an instruction from the headquarters. Qin Lu, someone is protecting the Qin family. Could it be that you've offended the Qin clan? This is impossible. How could the Qin family know someone from CI7? Xia Luqing's face turned pale as she said emotionally. If you don't believe me, you can check backstage. The order has already been refunded. The person hung up the phone. Xia Luqing refused to believe it and immediately went backstage to check. But he didn't expect that the order would really be rejected. The next day, Bei Yunge had just gone downstairs and was about to leave when she heard Huashidu call out to her. Yun Yun. Bei Yunge came to her senses and immediately walked to the table to get the porridge. She was about to finish it in one gulp. The man raised his eyebrows and tapped the table with his slender fingers. Sit down and drink. But I'm rushing. After Bei Yunge met the man's gaze, she was silent for a moment before sitting down at the table. The man handed her the spoon. I'll send you to school later. Bei Yunge, she suddenly forgot that she had not told Huashidu about this. Actually, I'm not in a hurry. Bei Yunge buried her head in the porridge. You'll be late in half an hour. Aren't you anxious? Huashidu asked. End of chapter. Chapter 939. Bei Yunge choked on the porridge and immediately covered her mouth. However, just as she was about to find an excuse, she looked up and met the man's indiscernible eyes. Brother, if I tell you now that I've quit school, Bei Yunge did not dare to look into the man's eyes. After all, Huashidu had always been very strict with her regarding school matters. As expected, as soon as she finished speaking, the atmosphere was cold for a long time. She heard the man laugh mysteriously. His tone was light and lazy. Yun Yun, are you informing me? Bei Yunge, that was not it. The man glanced at the little girl beside him. In the end, he adjusted his emotions and said slowly, "Eat first." Hearing this, Bei Yunge ate silently without saying a word. She even drank the pure milk that Huashidu handed her, which she did not like to drink. Today, in order to show off, she drank the entire glass. Huashidu glanced over and saw that the little girl's ears and jawline were slightly red. He thought that the little girl was embarrassed. "Are we going to school later?" Huashidu asked. This time, it was obvious that he wanted Bei Yunj to tell the truth. Perhaps it was because she had stayed up all night to check on the Qin family's project, but Bei Yunj felt a little dizzy. It was only when she heard Huashidu's words that she reacted. To the Qin family. Bei Yunj briefly told Huashidu about the Qin family. Huashidu rarely heard any rumors in the company. Indeed, he did not know that these changes had happened to the Qin family. "You've been worried about this for the past 2 days?" The man lifted his eyelids and asked unhurriedly. She did not tell him about the Qin family. She did not tell him about her suspension either. Yes. Bei Yunj was about to say something when Huashidu suddenly glanced over. Tseng Su happened to walk over from the door. The man suddenly said, "Tseng Su, send her to the Qin family." Bei Yunj, ? Tseng Su could clearly feel the resistance in Miss Pei's eyes and the warning to him. "Master Du, I think you have nothing to do at home. Why don't you?" Tseng Su had originally thought that these two were just throwing a tantrum, which would give Master Du a way out. But when he saw the man's casual gaze, he immediately changed his words. "Why don't you rest for a while and wait for me to come back to pick you up and take you to the company?" After saying this, on the other side, Bei Yunj glanced coldly at Tseng Su. It was a blatant threat. Tseng Su was howling in his heart. Was he the only one who wasn't human? Why did these two people treat him like this when they were throwing tantrums? Brother, assistant Tseng? Bei Yunj felt that she could still fight for it. Not long after, Bei Yunj sat in the front passenger seat and couldn't help but laugh. "Dog man." Beside him, Tseng Su was trembling with fear and turned a deaf ear. Only Miss Pei would dare to scold Master Du like that. Judging from Master Du's expression just now, Miss Pei must have upset him somehow. However, when Tseng Su came out of the car, he received a text message from Hu Jinyao, reminding him to bring a jacket to Bei Yunj. In the living room. "Why didn't you tell me about the Qin family?" Huashidu was on the phone with someone. Fear flashed across Zhou Yu's eyes. "Sir, the Angel family is interfering in the Qin family's matters. However, the Angel family has always had a good relationship with the Fernan's family." Zhou Yu felt that this matter would make things difficult for Huashidu, so he did not report it. However, he did not expect to be questioned. "But are Fernan's people teaching you how to do things?" The man's casual words caused panic to appear in Zhou Yu's eyes. "No, I wouldn't dare." Zhou Yu braced himself. "You can do whatever you want with the Angel family, but nothing can happen to the Qin family." The man took out a cigarette from the cigarette box, lit it, and held it between his slender fingers. Zhou Yu finally understood what that girl's position in Huashidu's heart was. He didn't even care about the Fernan's family. At this moment, the Qin Corporation was already waiting for someone to negotiate. "President Qin, as long as you hand over your shares, with your ability, we don't mind letting you continue staying in the Qin Corporation." A few higher-ups who had never been favored by Qin Luyan deliberately added insult to injury. When old Master Qin heard this, his face darkened as he looked at these B***stars. "What's wrong? Do I need outsiders to tell me what to do when I created the company myself?" Old Master Qin's expression turned cold and his voice was dignified. Indeed, it scared many people. But then, the smug and sarcastic expressions on the faces of the higher-ups were exposed. "Old Master, do you still think that the Qin Corporation is your Qin Corporation? If Qin Luyan can't fork out those tens of billions, we'll even sue him until he goes to jail." Qin Luyan's ink-colored eyes swept across them. He did not panic. Instead, he was unbelievably calm. He sneered. "Sue me? Let's wait and see." "Secretary Wu." Qin Luyan shouted, and Assistant Wu came over to take the USB flash drive in Qin Luyan's hand and walked to the display screen. Assistant Wu gritted his teeth. He still felt that Qin Luyan's efforts had all been fed to the dogs. How was Bei Yunj worth Boss Qin's attention? Over the past 6 months, Boss Qin had been collecting evidence of corruption among the higher-ups, as well as the criminal evidence of that person abroad. However, he did not expect that before the evidence had been collected, Boss Qin would have to perish together with these people in order to protect that Missy who only wanted to enjoy life for 100 years. Thinking of this, Assistant Wu was indignant, but he had no choice but to listen to Qin Luyan's arrangements. However, just as the evidence was about to be laid out in front of everyone, the information on the USB flash drive had only been refreshed for a second in front of everyone's eyes, but it had suddenly disappeared? Assistant Wu panicked. What's going on? Looking at this scene, Qin Luyan was much calmer than Assistant Wu. Miss Elena, good move, he said casually. Just as expected. The next moment, Elena walked into the conference room with a few people. Indeed, I still didn't see you tonight. Elena flipped her hair and sat opposite Qin Luyan. She supported her chin with both hands and was even more mesmerized by this man. You're so amazing, Boss Qin. In just half a year, he had actually collected so much evidence. If Qin Luyan was given another 2 to 3 years to strengthen himself, the angel family would probably be played by him. Fortunately, Hans discovered this quickly. Otherwise, he would have really died in this man's hands. Elena smiled. Indeed, the most charming man is the most dangerous. What should I do? At this point, the woman's snow-white legs were already rubbing against the man's suit pants. But very quickly, the man avoided contact with Elena. She smiled. I really like a man like Boss Qin. The fragrance on Elena's body was pungent. She leaned closer to Qin Luyan and said in a cold voice, If I can't have it, I'd rather destroy it. Suddenly, someone suddenly barged in. End of chapter. Chapter 940. The door was slammed open. Bei Yunj had just been thinking about Huashidu. Just as she came back to her senses, she saw that everyone at the conference table was looking at her. She paused. I'm sorry. As soon as she finished speaking, however, Bei Yunj was not embarrassed at all as she sat beside old Master Qin. She slowly glanced at the higher-ups and Elena opposite her. This was Elena's second time seeing Bei Yunj, but she froze. She felt that the Bei Yunj in front of her did not look like the girl she had seen before. Her eyes were cold and unruly. Her eyes were curved and filled with a lazy coldness. She was just wearing a loose hoodie and her black hair was loose and slightly curled. She was already so beautiful that no one could ignore her. Let's continue. Bei Yunj's voice was clear and melodious. It was difficult to detect the slight hoarseness in it as she leaned lazily against the back of the chair. The others sneered, feeling that this elder miss was truly a hedonistic person. The Qin family was about to fall, yet she still dared to be so arrogant. Only Hans, who was beside Elena, sensed a certain gaze and instinctively looked up. He did not expect to meet Bei Yunj's interested eyes. He had a feeling that this person was a little familiar, but this was his first time in our nation. How could he know someone from our nation? Big Brother hasn't sent out the information on the USB drive yet? Bei Yunj suddenly asked. This made Elena's eyes fill with sarcasm. Hans was the best hacker in our nation. The only time he was humiliated was when he fought with Max. However, it was easy for him to deal with Qin Luyan, who was an outsider. Miss, it's probably impossible to find the information in the USB drive. When Hans heard this, disdain appeared in his eyes as he smiled meaningfully. As soon as he finished speaking, Bei Yunj knew what was going on. She licked her red lips and chuckled softly. There was a faint coldness in the depths of her eyes. But then, everyone heard Bei Yunj say leisurely, Is that so? Why don't you try yours? As soon as she finished speaking, the assistant, who was desperately refreshing the computer, frowned subconsciously. What on earth was Bei Yunj trying to do? Miss Pei, do you know how to use a computer? The assistant asked sarcastically. Very soon. Qin Luyan's magnetic voice rang out. Assistant Wu. Assistant Wu felt a chill run down her spine. She gritted her teeth and passed the laptop to Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj smirked and started to restore the data on Qin Luyan's USB drive. This made Hans, who had inadvertently glanced at the screen, freeze with disdain. This girl obviously knows how to use a computer. Moreover, his skill level was not low. According to Bei Yunji's recovery speed, she would soon be able to recover the information that Qin Luyan had sorted out. Hans's face paled as a thought flashed through his mind. She immediately walked over with the glass of water in her hand. Within a few seconds, before anyone could react, they saw Hans accidentally spilling water on the keyboard. The data that Bei Yunji was halfway through was also lost due to the computer's automatic blue screen. "Oh, Miss Pei, I'm so sorry. My hand slipped and I couldn't hold it properly." Hans smiled and apologized. However, Qin Luyan suddenly got up and walked to Bei Yunji's side. He held Bei Yunji's hand and checked. Bei Yunji's cold and fair skin was faintly red. The hot water in Hans's hand had splashed on her hand. Does it hurt?" The man, who did not even frown just now, suddenly bent down and gently blew on the back of the girl's hot hand. His cold voice was lowered. End of this chapter. Chapter 941. Miss Pei, I'm so sorry. My hand shook and I didn't hold it properly. Hans smiled and apologized. However, Qin Luyan suddenly got up and walked to Bei Yunji's side. He held Bei Yunji's hand and checked. Bei Yunji's cold and fair skin was faintly red. The hot water in Hans's hand had splashed on her hand. Does it hurt? The man, who did not even frown just now, suddenly bent down and gently blew on the back of the girl's hot hand. His cold voice was lowered. Bei Yunji was not used to close contact. She subconsciously frowned and quickly avoided Qin Luyan's hand. "I'm fine." Bei Yunji's tone was a little cold. "Assistant Tsing, bring my computer up." At this moment, everyone then realized that there was a familiar face standing beside Bei Yunji, but they could not remember who it was. "Yes, Mississippi." With that said, Hans's expression changed. He was worried that Bei Yunji had a backup. Hadn't he already destroyed the backup? Could it be that this person still had a copy of the information? 5 minutes later, Assistant Tseng brought the computer upstairs. Bei Yunji stood up, pulled out the card reader from the computer, and plugged it into the equipment in the conference room. When she looked up again, Bei Yunji's eyes curved. She smiled lazily and said in a slightly cold voice, "Your hand shook, right? Continue. My computer is very waterproof." Hans's heart skipped a beat and he suddenly had a bad feeling. Then he saw several folders appear on the screen. Hans gritted his teeth and was about to pounce on her and smash Bei Yunji's computer when Bei Yunji stopped him. But Tseng Su, who was next to him, grabbed his hand. Tseng Su's gaze turned cold as he looked at him warningly. "What are you trying to do?" Do you know what family we are from?" Hans gritted his teeth in hatred. He had not expected such an accident. But the moment he finished speaking, before Hans could react, Tseng Su kicked his knee and he knelt down. Hans raised his head and heard the sound of a swivel chair sliding backwards. He saw Bei Yunji walking towards him. Without saying a word, she slapped him across the face. Hans's head was knocked to the side, and his head was buzzing. The crisp sound caused the atmosphere to freeze by a few degrees. Bei Yunji's beautiful eyes curved, but she was still angry. She sneered condescendingly, "Do you know whose place this is? What are you doing?" Elena was furious. She did not expect that someone would dare to touch her men. "Bei Yunji, do you know what will happen to the Qin family if you dare to go against me?" Elena's gloomy eyes fell on Bei Yunji. The Angel family was a big family with a lot of assets. It was impossible to make them fall immediately. A centipede dies but never falls down. Bei Yunji said unhurriedly, "Tseng Su, continue." Suddenly, Tseng Su then gave Hans a fierce punch, causing his eyes to turn black. Hans howled in pain. Tseng Su grabbed his collar and continued to punch him in the face. Bei Yunji's bright and unruly eyes revealed a terrifying danger and hostility. She said unhurriedly, "Did you see that? In my place, you're no different from other people's dogs." Everyone felt their scalps go numb for some reason. They felt that they would be next. Even Qin Luyan and Old Master Qin felt that the Bei Yunji in front of them was extremely unfamiliar. "What are you looking at? Hurry up and call the police." Elena was furious and glared at the higher-ups of the Qin family. Chapter 942. But Elena's face turned pale. Could it be that Qin Luyan had a backup plan? This evidence was far more detailed than the one she had asked Hans to delete 2 days ago. There was even her business in the gray area. It had all been dug out. The signed documents, recordings, and videos, not a single one was missing. Even if Angel wanted to fish her out, he would have to skin her alive. Qin Luyan, I've never killed you from the beginning to the end. Why are you doing this to me? Elena gritted her teeth, wishing she could drag the refined and handsome man in front of her to hell. When the fat executive who made the call reacted, his face turned pale and he immediately hung up the call. Qin Luyan frowned but did not say anything. He instinctively walked to Bei Yunj's side, afraid that Elena would go crazy and attack Bei Yunj. A cold glint flashed past Elena's eyes. Then she pursed her lips and walked to Qin Luyan's side. Boss Qin, let me off. I only did this because I wanted you. Let you off. Qin Luyan's tone was indifferent. How could he not see through this woman's tricks? Dream on. But then, just when no one noticed, Elena had unknowingly held a gun in her hand and pointed it at Bei Yunj behind Qin Luyan. You won't let me off? Then can you bear to let her die with me? The pitiful expression on Elena's face disappeared as she questioned with a cold smile. Gun? She brought a gun. Someone immediately reacted and jumped in fright. Our nation did not control guns, but a nation prohibited private firearms. He did not know how this woman did it. She actually brought a gun with her? Put the gun down. Old Master Qin was anxious. Qin Luyan froze as well. This was the first time Elena saw panic flash across Qin Luyan's eyes. She smiled coquettishly and gently hooked her index finger on the metal buckle on Qin Luyan's belt. Boss Qin, help me delete it. How about that? This was also the first time Qin Luyan did not push her away. He was afraid that the gun in her hand would hurt Bei Yunj. Qin Luyan's voice was cold. Put the gun down. I know it's useless to point a gun at you, so I won't be stupid. Elena said coldly with an expressionless face, Qin Luyan, if you don't delete that information, I'll let her die before me. Really? Bei Yunj suddenly asked. Immediately after. Just as Elena was about to turn her head, she felt a cold touch against the back of her head. Elena froze as she recognized what it was. Lu Jian pressed the gun against the back of Elena's head and asked with a smile, Miss, I'm Lu Jian, the captain of the reconnaissance team in Yun City. Which do you think is faster, your gun or mine? Instantly, Elena froze. Only then did she realize that this was a trap. Bei Yunj had long known that she would do anything to make the evidence disappear, so she had been lying in wait for her. This was the first time in Elena's life that she had been tricked. Her eyes were gloomy. After Lu Jian's teammate took away her gun, Bei Yunj walked up to her. Take a guess. Could Wang Lin Meng be in the same cell as you? Everyone was confused by Bei Yunj's words, but Elena suddenly remembered this person. She was the idiot who had deliberately arranged to deal with Qin Yu. However, these things were done very secretly and almost never went through her hands. How did Bei Yunj know? Who on earth are you? Elena suppressed her inexplicable panic and asked darkly. P.S. I fixed it a little in front. The little kid reminded me and found that it was a little repetitive, so I fixed the details. Chapter 943. Do you need to know? Bei Yunj quickly looked away from her, as if she did not need to spend any effort on her. This made Elena feel naked humiliation. Bei Yunj, just you wait. Elena clenched her teeth as she finished speaking. Then she was dragged to the door. Do you know why they haven't left yet? Because I still have some gifts for everyone. Bei Yunj sat on the swivel chair again and twirled her pen with one hand. The corners of her lips curled up. Everyone, does anyone else want to try and touch the Qin family's foundation? With that said, everyone on the scene was silent. No one dared to stand out. It was only after the people outside left that Qin Luyan regained control of the situation. Bei Yunj sat at the side with one hand on her head, as if she was watching lazily. However, The person that these higher-ups were most wary of right now was this young girl. He could not help but say that to see Bei Yunzhe's reaction. When the crowd dispersed, after these people left, Bei Yunzhe looked up and tugged at her collar. Her head felt even heavier, but she did not show it just now. "Grandpa, I'll go back first." After Bei Yunzhe finished speaking, she realized that her voice was a little hoarse. Where did you get this information from?" After Old Master asked, Bei Yunzhe said without blushing, "Brother Shidu gave it to me." "Tseng Su?" Old Master was stunned for a moment before he nodded. "Shidu, thank you." "Tseng Su, you can go back first. I have something on later." After Bei Yunzhe finished speaking, Tseng Su felt that this was not good. He insisted on following Bei Yunzhe downstairs. He wanted to see Bei Yunzhe get into the car before he could leave in peace. "What are you waiting for? Can you repair your relationship with Gua?" Old Master glared at Qin Luyan angrily. Qin Luyan regained his senses from the memory of Bei Yunzhe pulling his hand away just now and nodded in understanding. "I'll send her off." In the hall, Bei Yunzhe licked her red lips. Hearing Tseng Su's noisy voice, she couldn't help but move away from him. But halfway there, Bei Yunzhe's consciousness suddenly blurred. Very soon, when Qin Luyan saw that something was wrong with Bei Yunzhe, he immediately strode forward. Tseng Su turned around and widened his eyes. "Miss Pei." The next second, the people in the hall saw their refined and noble Xianxia carrying a little girl in his arms. "Chairman Qin, let me send Miss Pei to the hospital." "Assistant Wu, go get the car." After Qin Luyan finished speaking, he glanced at Tseng Su indifferently with a hint of warning in his dark eyes. Assistant Tseng suddenly reacted. She almost forgot that the three brothers of the Qin family were not easy to deal with, especially when it came to Bei Yunzhe. Qin Luyan looked up and snorted softly. His magnetic and pleasant voice was mixed with disdain and mockery. "But, do you want to learn from your master and overstep your boundaries?" Assistant Tseng was speechless. Indeed, Chairman Qin had been unhappy with Master Du for a long time. His sister was only close to a man who was not related to her by blood. This was the shame of having a sister complex. Seeing Qin Luyan take Bei Yunzhe away, Assistant Tseng hesitated. "Pei." Fortunately, Chairman Qin was her biological brother. Even Tseng Su, who often followed Huashidu around, was occasionally stunned by Qin Luyan's gaze. A person like Qin Luyan would become very terrifying as long as he was given time. End of chapter. Chapter 944. In the car, Bei Yunzhe frowned in a daze and could not help but scratch her neck. Qin Luyan looked down and saw from the corner of his eye that Bei Yunzhe's snow-white neck was red. He immediately grabbed her hand. "Are you allergic?" Qin Luyan frowned. He remembered that Mrs. Qin had an allergic constitution, but this did not happen to him and Qin Yu. Then, Qin Luyan leaned over and touched Bei Yunzhe's forehead with his forehead. He realized that Bei Yunzhe was no longer having a normal fever. The temperature was frighteningly high. However, in the conference room just now, Bei Yunzhe did not show it at all. She just did not say anything after that. "President Qin, you'd better not be so close to Mississippi. What if Miss is contagious?" Assistant Wu frowned. Qin Luyan glanced at him coldly. "You can find someone to hand over your work in 2 days." "President Qin?" Assistant Wu froze in disbelief. He had been by Qin Luyan's side for a long time. Qin Luyan did not explain at all. He only saw Bei Yunzhe look up at him with her eyes half open. It was as if she did not know what to say. Qin Luyan restrained the emotions in his eyes and only rubbed her head. He chuckled softly and his voice was unbelievably gentle. "Sleep for a while. Brother is here." Bei Yunzhe looked down and thought of Qin Luyan's dim gaze in the conference room just now. She closed her eyes, but did not fall asleep. In the hospital. She's only sent here when she has such a high fever? If it was any later, she would have turned stupid from the fever. The attending doctor chuckled. The girl's eyelids twitched. Then she looked up at the doctor slowly. It was the first time the doctor felt threatened by the patient on the bed. "Just a high fever?" Qin Luyan asked. The doctor reacted. "An allergies. This girl is quite capable." It's so serious, but she doesn't feel anything? Bei Yunj was speechless. In her previous life, Bei Yunj had not fallen ill for more than 20 years, so she indeed could not react properly. Let's put her on in 4 drip and observe her for another day. After the doctor finished his examination, he said, "The young lady has to stay here today. Do you want her family to accompany her?" "No need." "Yes," Bei Yunj and Qin Luyan said at the same time. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. The 3 of them turned around and saw a handsome man in a black double-breasted coat and a suit walking over. His beautiful peach blossom eyes were cold, and his short black hair was slightly messy and loose in front of his forehead. Compared to his usual noble and abstinent temperament, he had a bit more of a wolf's nature. It was obvious that he had rushed over. Bei Yunj leaned against the soft pillow behind her. She curved her eyes and met Huashidu's gaze. Seeing that Bei Yunj was awake, the chaotic emotions in Huashidu's eyes gradually calmed down. "President Hua, I have something to tell you." Qin Luyan looked up at Huashidu. The tension between the 2 men grew stronger. Huashidu glanced at Bei Yunj before unbuttoning a button on his collar slowly. He said calmly, "Okay." After he left, the doctor looked at Bei Yunj's curved eyes and muttered softly, "Sigh, no matter how good brother is, he's not as good as brother Qin." Bei Yunj was speechless. "Young lady, when your brother carried you over just now, he looked at you without blinking, afraid that something would happen to you." The doctor could not help but speak up for Qin Luyan. Bei Yunj could not be bothered to look up. "Are you very free at work?" The doctor gave a fake smile. "The allergen hasn't been found yet. You must have eaten something that you don't often eat these few days." End of chapter. Chapter 945. I got it. Bei Yunj nodded. "Thank you." The doctor could not help but take another look at Bei Yunj. He had thought that she was an elder young miss with a bad personality. He did not expect her to be all right apart from having a bad temper. "Pay attention to your diet." After reminding her, the doctor could not help but want to see the battle between the 2 men at the door. Such a scene was rare. After the doctor left, Bei Yunj's eyes moved and she remembered what she had eaten these few days. Ever since she was arranged to be treated by Cui Hengchuan had sent her a grade 1 psychotropic drug some time ago. In the past few days, Bei Yunj had taken it once. Perhaps she was allergic to the drug. Outside the door. "I don't want to beat around the bush with President Hua either. Actually, I've wanted Guru to go home for a long time." Qin Luyan stood in the stairwell and said calmly, "It's my fault that I didn't take good care of Yun Yun. But if she goes back with President Qin, I'm afraid President Qin won't be able to understand the little girl's temper." Huashidu lit a cigarette and rejected Qin Luyan's request easily. With President Hua's personality, he would never take in a girl for no reason. Even if she's a friend's sister, this reason is ridiculous. Qin Luyan's indifferent tone was slightly mocking. "I'm not Qin Yu. Do I want to know what President Hua means? Or does President Hua not plan to return her now?" The man tapped the cigarette with his fingertips. After a while, he said slowly, "Then what if I change my tone? I want to ask President Qin for her. Is that okay?" Qin Luyan paused. Indeed, he had never thought that Huashidu would say it so directly. Seng Su arrived and saw Bei Yunj deep in thought in the ward alone. "Miss, you're awake? Are you all right? How are you?" Bei Yunj regained her senses. "I'm all right. I'm just a little sleepy." She had just taken some medicine and fell asleep easily. "Where's Master Du?" Seng Su asked. Bei Yunj said without thinking, "He's chatting outside." "With who?" "Qin Luyan," Bei Yunj said. Seng Su was speechless. It was obvious that this ancestor had not realized that it was easy for troublesome accidents to happen when those 2 people were together. "Miss Pei, are you angry with Master Du? For the past few days, Master Du has been preparing for old Madam's birthday. He has even prepared your gift. I reckon that when the time comes, he will bring you to the old house to stay for a while." Seng Su said uneasily. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows. She didn't quite understand why Seng Su asked that. "Am I angry? This morning, Master Du's attitude towards you?" Seng Su was deeply worried. When he called Master Du to report about Miss Pei, he could almost feel Master Du's nervousness at that time. Bei Yunj thought for a moment and suddenly smiled. That seems to be the case. Seng Su. So Miss Pei had never thought of getting angry from the start. However, looking at Bei Yunj's current state, Seng Su felt that his year-end bonus was no longer guaranteed. So, the person who entered was Huashidu. Before Seng Su could speak, he caught a glimpse of Huashidu's gaze and immediately said sensibly, "I'll go and ask the doctor about Mrs. Dietary restrictions. I'll buy some food for Miss Pei." After Seng Su left, Huashidu walked over and bent down. He reached out and touched Bei Yunj's forehead. Bei Yunj did not move. She could smell the man's pleasant and cold scent. "Your temperature hasn't cooled down yet. You'll be fine after sleeping." Huashidu's gaze darkened and he retracted his gaze. End of chapter. Chapter 946. "Brother, your hand is so cold." Bei Yunj shrank her neck in front of Huashidu, but her eyes were curled up lazily. It was obvious that she did it on purpose. When Huashidu heard Seng Su say that Bei Yunj had fainted and rushed over, he was indeed in a sorry state. On the other hand, Bei Yunj only thought of the man rushing over in the wind and snow. It was engraved in the deepest part of her heart. "I'm sorry. Brother, be careful next time." Huashidu quickly let go of her hand. "It's snowing outside?" Bei Yunj did not pay attention to the window either. Now, her eyes refused to leave the man's body. "Yes." Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and felt that the man was a little pressured. She watched as Huashidu reached out to help her adjust the blanket. Suddenly, she smiled and said, "Brother, it seems to be red." With that said, Bei Yunj followed his gaze and looked down at the red patches on her hand. "There's ointment on the table." Bei Yunj leaned back. Her gaze was lazy, but her eyes were so clear and seductive. Huashidu's pale-colored eyes glanced at her. His slender hand picked up the ointment. After opening it, his deep and lazy voice sounded. "Give me your hand." Bei Yunj naturally placed her hand on the man's ironed suit pants. Not long after, the cold ointment was applied on her hand. "What did you talk about when you went out just now?" Bei Yunj asked casually. Huashidu's well-jointed hand held a cotton swab and carefully applied the ointment on the little girl. He said casually, "He said that the next time you fall sick, he will tear down my company." Bei Yunj did not take it seriously and said, "I thought that he would not let me live with brother." "But, do you think I'm old?" Huashidu looked up and wiped some ointment on her face. Bei Yunj, was this D***M man becoming more and more unreasonable? Seng Su's words were fleeting in her mind, and he sounded quite righteous. "You were the one who didn't want to see me this morning." She originally thought that Huashidu would continue to say something, but she did not expect the man to be silent for a moment and reply in an abnormal manner, "Yes, it's my fault. I won't let anyone take Yun Yun away in the future." Huashidu looked straight at her, a little secretive. He curled his lips and reached out to scratch her chin. "I don't feel at ease leaving it to anyone." This was the first time Bei Yunj realized that this man, who always looked casual and carefree, could actually be nervous and uneasy. He would think that it was his fault and apologize to her. "The back of my neck is also itchy." Bei Yunj licked her lips and suddenly said. When Huashidu heard this, his clean and beautiful hands gently parted her long hair, revealing the back of the girl's fair and dazzling neck. The man's eyes suddenly darkened. Following the girl's loose collar, he inadvertently peeked at the girl's flawless back. Huashidu was still adjusting his emotions. His eyes were dark and unfathomable. Suddenly, the girl rubbed against his neck gently and itchily. Bei Yunj curled her lips and deliberately rubbed the ointment on her face on the man's good-looking jawline. "Brother, Seng Su doesn't know that I like that grayish-green long coat." These few days, it was probably because she had been doing high-intensity scientific research missions. Yesterday, she had stayed up all night to collect evidence from the angel family. She did not notice that something was wrong with her body, so she inevitably had a high fever. "This is the allergy medicine you asked for, young lady." The doctor handed the medicine to Bei Yunj and looked at Bei Yunj strangely. "Do you know what you're allergic to?" End of this chapter. Chapter 947. Thank you, doctor. Bei Yunj didn't say anything else. The doctor was speechless. This was the most difficult patient to communicate with he had ever seen. After the doctor left, Bei Yunj called Si Qingyan. What's the special ingredient in the medicine Cui Hengchuan sent me? What's wrong? Si Qingyan asked instinctively after reading these papers with a dark expression. When he heard Bei Yunj's voice, he asked instinctively. I'm a little allergic. Si Qingyan was surprised. Allergic? I heard that this medicine has been prepared for a long time. Its safety is not high on the market. Only 1 in 10,000 cases might be allergic. Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched. What are you trying to say? That's not it either. Si Qingyan smiled. However, it will take a lot of time for the research institute to develop a new medicine. Have you been well recently? Bei Yunj licked her lips, her voice still a little hoarse. I don't know. Actually, ever since she stayed by Huashidu's side, she rarely lost control. But recently, her situation had worsened. Then you're allergic to this medicine. It's better not to take it first. Si Qingyan frowned. After all, there are only a few test subjects. I'm afraid there might be other side effects. Okay, I'll hang up first. Bei Yunj's perfunctory tone was obvious. After hanging up, Bei Yunj glanced at the allergy medicine in her hand and stuffed it back into her pocket. After being hospitalized, Bei Yunj was brought back to the Hua family's old mansion. As soon as she entered the hall, she saw Wen Jiuwan playing with Mo. When Mo saw Bei Yunj, his eyes lit up. Sister. Alas howled and jumped onto Bei Yunj excitedly, circling Bei Yunj nonstop. Why did you gain weight again? Bei Yunj pinched Alas's cheek, but Alas licked her face and almost fell to the ground. Seeing this, Mo immediately went up and wanted to carry Alas away with all his might. Alas, calm down. You're not a 60-kilogram puppy anymore. Bei Yunj, who felt that her life was threatened, Wen Jiuwan. After finally coaxing Alas away with snacks, Bei Yunj glanced at Wen Jiuwan in the living room. I heard that you were sick, and Master Du took care of you for a long time, Wen Jiuwan suddenly said, her tone a little sour. Bei Yunj answered calmly. Doesn't Miss Pei find it troublesome to stay at Master Du's place? Wen Jiuwan pursed her lips. Bei Yunj glanced at Wen Jiuwan and suddenly smiled. Her eyes were bright and moving. It's good that it's not troublesome to do certain things. Wen Jiuwan did not react for a moment. When she did, her entire body froze. Bei Yunj. Wen Jiuwan seemed to have flown into a rage out of humiliation, and her face was a little red. Bei Yunj responded naturally. Do you know what it means to be reserved? Wen Jiuwan gritted her teeth. This girl was simply destroying Huashidu's image in her heart with her own hands. Reserved. A hint of interest flashed across Bei Yunj's eyes. She suddenly walked closer to her and lazily reached out to pick out her slender black shoulder strap. The snow-white shoulder strap and the black shoulder strap formed a strong sensory stimulation that made people blush and their hearts beat faster. But brother likes people like me. He also likes to play exciting games with me. Bei Yunj smiled lazily, her clear eyes unruly. Wen Jiuwan's face turned red and she threw the thing in her hand over. You're hopeless. Bei Yunj caught it and realized that it was a box of fever medicine. P.S. Thank you for our little friend's votes. Master Pei's votes are quite good. At the beginning of the month, he still needs your monthly votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 948. However, just as Bei Yunj was playing with the box of medicine, a man's voice suddenly sounded from behind her. Yun. Bei Yunj's hand paused and the medicine fell to the ground. She did not know how long the man behind her had been here. Bei Yunj picked up the medicine and turned around to see the man not far away. The other guests had also come down from the empty living room on the second floor. Brother, Bei Yunj called out. When Huashidu had just entered, he had caught a glimpse of this young lady teasing him mischievously. Those words entered his ears neither lightly nor heavily. Come here. Huashidu reached out to her. Bei Yunj walked in front of him without thinking. Among the people who came downstairs was Xia Luqing, who had appeared before. That man is... Xia Luqing's eyes were filled with amazement as her heart pounded. Huashidu. When Jiuan glanced at Huashidu and also saw Yu Hanran, who had followed them in, she retracted her gaze unnaturally. The CEO of the Hua Corporation? Xia Luqing could not help but feel her heart beating wildly. However, when she saw the girl beside Huashidu clearly, her expression turned ugly. Bei Yunj. Why was she here? Downstairs. Bei Yunj stood on her tiptoes and sank her fingers into the man's short black hair, scattering the snow on his head. Although he was so handsome that he could appear on the cover, the living room was warm. When the snow melted, he would not feel so good. Yu Hanran, who had more snow on him than Huashidu, was speechless. Huashidu stretched out his hand lazily and pressed Bei Yunj's head. Before anyone else could think, this was the young CEO of the Hua Corporation who did not get close to women. They saw him take off his scarf and put it around the neck of the young lady in front of him. It's cold. Bei Yunj gasped. Her neck accidentally touched the outer circle of the scarf. The man curled his lips in a good mood. He rubbed the inner circle with his fingers and helped her put it on. We'll go to the second floor later. Don't go to the balcony to take in the wind, understand? In the distance, Xia Luqing's gaze was gloomy as she watched this scene. She quickly smiled and said, "No wonder Miss Wen has liked Master Du for so many years. You know?" After when Jiuan asked with a frown, she realized the identity of this person. She reckoned that when she first got in touch with the Wen family, she had already found out the ins and outs of everyone in the Wen family. Don't worry, Miss Wen. The Xia family is on the Wen family's side. I won't do anything to harm you. Xia Luqing smiled generously, but there was a trace of jealousy in her eyes. Wen Jiuan was the most beloved eldest daughter of the Wen family. Compared to Bei Yunj, who returned to the Qin family at the age of 17, Qin Wanru had a halo around her since she was a child, which made others envious. Actually, I also think that Master Du and Miss Wen are a match made in heaven, Xia Luqing said with a smile. Who knew, however, when Jiuan glanced at Xia Luqing and turned around to say faintly, "Is that so? Why do I feel like I deserve this unrequited love?" Xia Luqing choked for a while, then smiled and said, "There must be a special reason why Miss Wen likes Master Du so much. Because he's the best-looking man I've ever seen." When Jiuan retracted her gaze and ignored Xia Luqing, she walked straight down. She disdained to play tricks to fight for a man. This was something that only fools would be proud of. Xia Luqing looked at Wen Jiuan's back. Her eyes were gloomy and she sneered. When Jiuan glanced at Yu Hanran, when she saw him turn to look at her, she immediately turned around and left in another direction. End of chapter. Chapter 949. After going downstairs, when Jiuan caught a glimpse of Bei Yunj sitting on the sofa. Everyone else was wearing suits and leather shoes or gowns. Only she was still wearing a simple sweater. That woman, stay away from her. Bei Yunj glanced at Wen Jiuan and said slowly. Bei Yunj had glanced upstairs just now. Xia Luqing looked at Wen Jiuan with an unfriendly gaze. Why? Wen Jiuan asked. Bei Yunj continued to play the game with her head lowered. No reason. Thank you for the medicine. Wen Jiuan was a little unnatural. I'm just thanking you for saving me last time. Otherwise, in such a gray area, if she was taken any messy photos, it would have a great impact on the Wen family. Wen Jiuan was stubborn. I didn't say that I would give up. Bei Yunj did not say anything and continued to play. Wen Jiuan could not help but ask, "Where's Huashidu?" "I don't want to tell you." Wen Jiuan was speechless. This person would definitely not be able to make any friends. Bei Yunj suddenly laughed. He went out. There seems to be a gathering. You're letting him go alone without a female companion? When Jiuan was in disbelief, Bei Yunj said naturally, "Isn't there Yu Hanran?" When Jiuan was speechless, something seemed wrong. Yu Manran, who was drinking champagne beside her, choked on it without any effect. She thought of the last time Yu Hanran accompanied Huashidu to the banquet in female clothes. Okay, this disgusting memory came back. Not long after, the living room was lively. Old Madame Hua and a few old ladies of similar age sat together and chatted. She also saw many young and beautiful ladies from wealthy families. Many old ladies teased old Madame Hua and asked old Madame Hua to take the opportunity to arrange a blind date banquet. However, old Madame Hua only smiled and said, "Shidu has his own ideas on this matter." If it were any other time, old Madame Hua would definitely take the opportunity to agree. But now, old Madame Hua's attitude clearly showed that she already had a candidate she liked. The old madam of the Wen family pursed her lips and was a little unhappy. The other old madams also felt that it was a pity. Everyone, including the noble ladies, had dressed up beautifully today. Wasn't it all to attract the attention of the young master of the Hua family? Pei, grandma has candy here. Old Madame Hua liked Bei Yunj very much. When she looked at Bei Yunj, her eyes curved into crescents. Bei Yunj felt everyone's gaze on her. Bei Yunj gave up on the game and walked up to old Madame Hua expressionlessly. "Look, I bought this in Neely last time. Mo loves it too." Old Madame Hua stuffed a large box of candies into Bei Yunj's hands. Bei Yunj nodded. "Thank you, Grandma." The others immediately looked at each other, especially the appearance of the girl in front of them. The word outstanding could no longer be used to describe her. Her delicate eyebrows were bright and lively. The corners of her eyes seemed to be curved but not curved. However, her pair of clear and beautiful eyes carried a hint of laziness. "This is the girl of the Qin family, Bei Yunj." Old Madame Hua happily introduced her to everyone. Suddenly, a voice beside her interrupted. "I heard that Miss Pei seems to have taken a leave of absence." She took a leave of absence in her 3rd year of high school. Everyone turned their heads and saw Xia Luqing walking over with a smile. She tried her best to smile amiably, but her eyes were filled with arrogance. These words were obviously meant to embarrass Bei Yunj. Take a leave of absence? Why didn't I know? Old Madame Hua frowned and was a little displeased with Xia Luqing's words. End of this chapter. Chapter 950. Miss Pei is also 19 years old, right? Xia Luqing held a glass of champagne in her hand, and her voice entered everyone's ears with a thought-provoking smile. 19 years old and still in high school. Wasn't it obvious that she had repeated her studies? Moreover, this girl had repeated her studies and even took a leave of absence. Was she crazy? When Jiuwan frowned. Xia Luqing. This woman was simply using her status as a member of CI7 to commit crimes. Xia Luqing was also very disdainful of a timid young lady like Wenjun. She chuckled and did not feel guilty. "I'm sorry, I just wanted to know more about the guests. Maybe I know too much." Bei Yunj glanced at her leisurely and then turned to look at old Madame Hua. She did take a leave of absence. Why? Old Madame Hua had a headache. Originally, she was preparing to find connections to either send her to Yunqing University or Beichuan University. "There's nothing to learn," Bei Yunj said without thinking. Old Madame Hua. The way the others looked at Bei Yunj also changed. Could it be that the Hua family had taken a fancy to such a young madam? But this was too useless. How could such a person secure her position as the young madam of the Hua family? Xia Luqing could not help but laugh, as if she had vented her anger. "However, I will take the college entrance exam." Bei Yunj looked at old Madame Hua and comforted her. Old Madame Hua did not know what to say. She was afraid that she would say something that she should not say and destroy this child's confidence. Then there should be no problem. Old Madame Hua forced a smile. "Bei Yunj, but you don't look like there's no problem." At this moment, the other old madams also took the opportunity to laugh. Actually, my granddaughter's grades have always been good. She scored dozens of points in the college entrance exam last year." Old Madame Wen smiled but did not say anything. Then, someone immediately mentioned the Wen family. "Wen Jiuwan graduated from Yunqing University, right?" Old Madame Wen smiled. Yes, this child has been good at studying since she was young. Everything else is average. Unlike your Joe, he graduated from the best music academy in our nation." The old madams were showing off the results of their family's juniors. Only old Madame Hua's expression was slightly stiff. Actually, an outstanding junior like Shidu really needs a suitable match. A young madam said meaningfully, who doesn't want their descendants to be smarter? I don't want to inherit some messy genes and become stupid. But he didn't expect that. These words made old Madame Hua's face darken. She smiled and said in a gentle yet intimidating voice, I'm not worried about anything else. I'm just afraid that some of the younger generation will also have a crooked stick and learn the harshness and ignorance of their elders. These words directly stabbed the madam who had just spoken, causing her face to turn red and green. The people present could also see that old Madame Hua really liked this girl. Fortunately, the old madam's birthday banquet was tomorrow. Otherwise, it would be really embarrassing if the birthday banquet ended up like this. Bei Yunj looked at old Madame Hua and unconsciously smiled. I'm just taking a break from school. When the college entrance exam comes, I'll go to whichever school you want me to go to. Hearing this, old Madame Hua was very touched. Regardless of whether the little girl could get in or not, at least she had the heart to make her happy. Xia Luqing's eyes were full of ridicule. Of course, old Madame Hua wants you to get into the best school. P.S. Are there no children voting? Master Pei's ranking is dropping. Pinch your face. Did the children vote for the monthly vote today? End of this chapter. Chapter 951. Old Madame Hua's voice turned cold. Whose junior is this? The atmosphere suddenly froze. The old madam was obviously unhappy. Xia Luqing's smile froze. She did not expect that her sarcasm towards Bei Yunj not only did not make the old madam dislike Bei Yunj, but she also disliked her. I brought Xiaoqing here. Old Madam Wen had a dignified smile on her face. She's an intermediate member of CI7. She was also the one who found the contact for Higgins' artificial intelligence project this year. Old Madam, on account of this, don't lower yourself to the junior's level. Old Madam Hua only glanced at Old Madam Wen indifferently. Pei, go upstairs and accompany Mo for a while. I'm afraid that he'll be disobedient again. Bei Yunj could tell that the old madam was sending her away. Okay. When Pei Yunj went upstairs, a young boy happened to walk in from the door. Sister. When Huai frowned and said unhappily, didn't I tell you not to find me a tutor anymore? They can't teach me anything at all. When Juan laughed. You still don't like him? He's a physics professor I met in our nation. He's an associate professor at Neely University. That's just so. When Huai finished speaking angrily, suddenly he caught a glimpse of the person upstairs and his entire body froze. Why did that person look so similar to the assistant professor of Yun University's junior class? When Huai subconsciously wanted to go upstairs, but was stopped by Wen Juan. Nonsense. You can go up to the second floor? When Huai realized that he had recognized the wrong person. How could the immortal assistant professor of Yun University's junior class appear here? He was wrong. When Huai scratched his head with an annoyed expression. Then what kind of teacher do you want? Don't you usually complain that your progress is too slow? When Juan asked. When Huai was a student of Beichuan's junior class. After the competition with Yun University's junior class, the entire class crazily told Beichuan to go to Yun University to snatch him. I want the assistant professor of Yun University's junior class, when Huai said honestly. The assistant professor of Yun University's junior class? When Jiuan frowned. Sigh, I heard that she's not even a student of a professor at Yun University. She's just a teaching assistant that a professor at Yun University found through his connections. The more when Huai spoke, the more jealous he became. She's only 19 years old, and she's especially good-looking. At this moment, the others remained silent. Everyone knew that the young master of the Wen family was a student of the Beichuan junior class and was extremely smart. Then what kind of deity was the 19-year-old teaching assistant that the young master was talking about? A 19-year-old teaching assistant in the junior class? Old Madame Hua's scalp tingled when she thought about it. Suddenly, Xia Luqing smiled and said, if young Master Wen wants to meet her, perhaps I can help you check. Really? When Huai asked. I'm not free today. I have an appointment with an important person to meet with old Madame Hua. Xia Luqing smiled and said, "We should be able to find out in 2 days." "Thank you." Wen Huai's blood boiled. A while after old Madame Hua left, Wen Huai heard the ridicule and disdain of others. They seemed to be discussing a girl who had dropped out of school. Inner hall. "Miss Xia is really amazing. She joined CI7 at such a young age." In the hall, there were people praising Xia Luqing nonstop. Everyone could see that the Xia family was now a third-tier family in Yuncheng. With Xia Luqing around, it was only a matter of time before they stood in the second tier. In the future, they would soar. "Old Madame Hua, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to target Miss Pei. I was just a little surprised." End of this chapter. Chapter 952. While Xia Luqing was waiting for the video call, she tried to make her presence known to the old madam. However, the old madam did not even look up. This made Xia Luqing's eyes gloomy. She smiled casually and said, "If the Hua family and the Wen family join forces, Higgins will definitely choose us." Old Madam Wen could not help but chuckle. "Old Madam Hua doesn't like our Chin-Chin, but you should know that someone does." Old Madam Hua glanced at Old Madam Wen and did not say anything. Back then, the Fernan's family had taken a liking to the Wen family and had taken advantage of them in the overseas market. They were indeed complementary to the Hua family's resources. However, old Madame Hua was already so old. She only cared about whether her juniors would be happy in the future. Wouldn't it be child's play for the adults to interfere in the love of the juniors? Old Madame Hua said calmly, "If Shidu likes her, she's the first priority." Old Madam Wen's face darkened. So, the video conference was connected. The person on the other end obviously did not expect that the other party would be a group of madams from wealthy families. "Boss Nya, I'm Qing Lu." Xia Luqing smiled faintly. After seeing the person beside him, Nya Yu's expression softened. "Miss Qing Lu. This is old Madame Hua, and this is old Madame Wen." After Xia Luqing introduced the few famous madams, she smiled and said, "Actually, I invited you for a video call this time because of an artificial intelligence project that you have. The corporations behind these madams all like your project very much." "Madams, I'm afraid you don't like my project, but the person in charge of this project." Nya Yu laughed. This time, the person in charge of Higgins' project had invited Marcus from the Institute of Computational Technology in our nation, as well as the recently rumored heir of Higgins Corporation. It was said that he was from Country A. However, there was very little information about him. "Boss Nya, you should know that if you want to find a powerful ally in Country A, everyone here is suitable." Xia Luqing knew that Nya Yu treated her specially, but she did not expect that Nya Yu would not give her preferential treatment in this matter. "I can't make the decision on this project. Everything is arranged by Eldest Mississippi," Nya Yu said. "Moreover, Eldest Miss hates businessmen who sell technology but don't know anything about scientific research." These words made the expressions of everyone present did not look too good. Who would study scientific research for the sake of a scientific research industry? How about this? I happen to have a set of professional materials here. If you ladies really want our project, you can let your teams try and see if they can bite this hard bone. Nya Yu smiled. Young Miss hopes to find companions, not a team that only knows how to throw money at you. After saying this, the faces of the madams on the scene turned green and red. After hanging up the video call, Xia Luqing looked at the information sent by Nya Yu. Her face was stiff and she did not know how to solve the problem. Half an hour later, almost all of the research teams of these major corporations were at a loss when it came to Higgins questions. "I can't even understand this. What's the point of asking me?" The madams looked at their own disappointing team and were about to go berserk. "Shao Qing, how should we solve this?" Old Madam Wen gritted her teeth. She wanted to settle this before Hua Shidu and the rest found out about this. Xia Luqing suddenly saw Bei Yunj coming downstairs. She seemed to have thought of something and smiled again. A strange glint flashed across her eyes. "Old Madam, leave it to me. P.S. If you have a lot of monthly votes today, why don't you add an update?" Pinch face, end of chapter. Chapter 953. Xia Luqing was extremely confident. No one knew who she had called to arrange this matter. When Jiuwan frowned, she had a feeling that Xia Luqing was targeting Bei Yunj. Then she turned around and was about to say something to Wen Huai when she realized that he had disappeared. Bei Yunj had just poured a glass of water when she heard Mo, who was holding the railing with both hands, say to Bei Yunj in a childish voice. Sister. So, what books should I read to become better? Other than her poor grades in Chinese, Mo's other subjects could be said to be impeccable. After all, this was Hu Shidu's biological younger brother. Bei Yunj thought for a long time and reported a few books in the original language. Mo ran back to her room excitedly and looked for the electronic version. When Jiuwan frowned subconsciously, the few mathematics books that Bei Yunj had just reported were all professional books. Mo was at the right age to read these books? Master Pei, don't you think those books are too difficult? Yu Manran whispered beside Bei Yunj. Yu Manran was originally a physics major in university. However, under the destruction of professional knowledge, she resolutely decided to transfer to the music major. Bei Yunj glanced at her. It's just a few basic books. Yu Manran, she felt that her IQ had been mocked. On the stage, Xia Luqing sneered disdainfully. How can a repeat student be so interested in mathematics books? I've met someone who likes to memorize the names of a few books so that she can use them to flatter herself. A few people mocked behind her. TSK, let her introduce them in detail. Don't embarrass her. Master Pei, have you really read these books? Yu Manran asked hesitantly. She had heard a little of what those people had said just now. Especially that Xia Luqing. It was obvious that she was a troublemaker. I haven't read them. Bei Yunj said slowly. How could she have so much time to read books that were not suitable for her? Yu Manran, how dare you recommend it to Mo? You can't even understand it, yet you want to show it to other children? Half an hour later. The question has been solved. Xia Luqing saw the message on her phone and could not help but smile. She immediately walked towards the old ladies. Old Madam Wen was overjoyed. Really? Who did it? Someone from the Qingchong Center. Xia Luqing smiled and said, they said that I can probably get around 70 points. Qingchong Computing Center? I heard that this computing. The old ladies were all excited. Then, old Madam Wen asked calmly, it should be difficult to invite people from such a pure research institution, right? I know their leader, so it won't be difficult. Xia Luqing smiled and said, moreover, the person who came up with the questions this time is also the director's disciple. That was why everyone was so interested in the declining Higgins Group's new project. That was the project that Mr. Marcus was in charge of. Miss Xia is really outstanding. She has such courage and connections at such a young age. Someone kept praising her. Then, old Madam Wen could not help but ask, can you invite him over? Of course. Xia Luqing smiled. I've already invited him here. Coincidentally, he should be very familiar with Miss Pei. End of chapter. Chapter 954. Are you very close to Ge? Old Madam Hua asked. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and glanced at Xia Luqing calmly. I don't know. She knew many people in the Qingchong Computing Center. Wasn't Hong Chongzhen, one of their directors, hospitalized because of her anger? Old Madam Hua didn't say anything. Until someone came in late. Miss Xia. Cheng Zihuai was dressed in decent clothes and looked handsome, attracting the attention of many people. Student Cheng. Xia Luqing's eyes lit up. She didn't expect Hong Chongzhen's student to look like this. This is a member of the Qingchong Computing Center? Old Madam Wen asked. Cheng Zihuai turned around and said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, I'm Cheng Zihuai from the Qingchong Computing Center. I'm also a freshman at Yun University. Only a freshman? Everyone was shocked. The person who could solve such a question was only a freshman? I'm not busy with my studies in the third year of high school, so I had the chance to get to know teacher Hong Chongzhen. Cheng Zihuai's tone was cold, but he was obviously confident in his ability. To be able to say that he wasn't busy with his studies in the third year of high school, he was definitely a top student. Cheng Zihuai didn't expect to see Bei Yunj when he turned around. "You're here too?" Cheng Zihuai inexplicably felt a ball of anger in his chest. He hated the person in front of him and had an inexplicable emotion. He hadn't seen Bei Yunj for so long, and her appearance had clearly become more unfamiliar, but it was as if no matter what, she could still affect his heart. Bei Yunj only looked at him indifferently and raised her eyebrows slightly without saying anything. This made Xia Luqing frown. Why was there something wrong with the news? Didn't they say that Bei Yunj had actually liked Cheng Zihuai for a long time? But Bei Yunj didn't seem like someone she liked at all. Old Madame Hua is indeed kind. No wonder student Pei thinks that as long as she has someone to rely on, she can be impudent. Cheng Zihuai pursed his lips and suddenly mocked her. Everyone present could tell that there was a grudge between Cheng Zihuai and Bei Yunj. "What are you saying, student Cheng? Why do you have to say this in front of old Madame Hua?" Xia Luqing seemed to be trying to stop the fight, but her eyes were gloating. Cheng Zihuai sneered. "You'll have to ask Miss Pei. She was really amazing to be able to force Qin Youjiao out of the country after returning to the Qin family for 2 years. Miss Pei is really someone who cannot tolerate sand in her eyes." After saying this, everyone on the scene sighed, as if they had heard some incredible gossip. So, that fake daughter was forced to leave. Thousands of thoughts ran through everyone's mind, and they also felt that this was very likely. After all, Qin Youjiao was an outstanding socialite in the industry back then, but this real young lady, at best, he was just lucky to have been reincarnated. With such a real daughter who couldn't compare to a fake daughter in any way, the Qin family was like a joke. Bei Yunj glanced at him unhurriedly and suddenly sneered. She called out slowly, "Eris?" A large Alaskan dog ran down quickly from upstairs and only went to Bei Yunj's side. Cheng Zihuai subconsciously took a step back. "Howl!" Eris circled around Bei Yunj and barked excitedly. Bei Yunj smirked. "Good child, be quiet." Eris really stopped barking. He only tilted his head and kept rolling and rubbing against Bei Yunj's legs. At this moment, Bei Yunj said slowly, "Student Cheng, have you learned it? When someone says to be quiet, you should at least shut up." P.S. Including the extra chapters mentioned yesterday, there are 3 more chapters. Our monthly votes have been a little low recently. If there are more votes, continue to add more. Chapter 955. As soon as she finished speaking, the atmosphere in the room froze. Cheng Zihuai's face darkened. Was Bei Yunj comparing him to a dog? Before Cheng Zihuai could say anything, Xia Luqing noticed old Madame Hua's displeasure and immediately smiled. "In our opinion, student Cheng is very talented. I wonder if student Cheng has ever thought of joining the group's research team?" These words were meant to flatter Cheng Zihuai, and she also hoped that old Madame Hua would not be too protective of Cheng Zihuai. Cheng Zihuai regained his composure, but his tone was cold and mocking. "Of course. However, the Qinchong Computing Center is on good terms with the Wen family, so I don't think there's any other choice." Everyone knew in their hearts that he had chosen the Wen family. "The teachers said that he would help me win Higgins's project this time." When Cheng Zihuai said this, his gaze swept over Bei Yunj with a hint of mockery. "However, Miss Pei is so resourceful. Perhaps you can also try these questions." Cheng Zihuai had long heard that Bei Yunj had dropped out of school for no reason. And for more than half a year, he had been working hard in the computing center day after day. He was no longer on the same level as Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj just sneered and sat on the sofa to tease Alas. "Zihuai, quickly send these questions up." Xia Luqing glanced at Bei Yunj and could not help but smile as she said to Cheng Zihuai. Cheng Zihuai heard this and quickly sent the content up. Hong Chongzhen was also involved in this. However, to his surprise, Niu sent him a voice message. Xia Luqing could not wait to open it. Everyone heard it clearly. Her smile gradually stiffened. "Miss Xia, I think you might have misunderstood. This is just a simple test foundation. Marcus's request is all correct. Only students in school need to look at the scores, and real research cannot tolerate any mistakes. In an instant, Cheng Zui's calm face also disintegrated, and his expression instantly turned ugly. What? That test had to be all correct. Suddenly, Cheng Zihuai heard a soft sneer. He quickly turned around and gritted his teeth. Bei Yunj. Student Cheng, if you can't do it, isn't there still an old one? Bei Yunj was playing leisurely, but he was still arrogant. Old Madame Hua, could the old Yunj was talking about Bihong Chongzhen? Everyone present suspected that Cheng Zihuai would explode on the spot, but fortunately he endured it. Bei Yunj, if you are really that capable, then you should help the Hua Corporation win this project. Cheng Zihuai sneered. If he couldn't do it, then Bei Yunj was even more unworthy. Xia Luqing agreed. Yes, Miss Pei and Zihuai were in the same high school and are about the same age. Since Miss Pei dared to quit school and felt that there was nothing to learn, there should be no problem with the foundation test, right? Actually, Cheng Zihuai didn't finish the paper by himself. Hong Chongzhen even helped him a little. After removing the water, Cheng Zihuai's accuracy was only about 50%. Bei Yunj glanced at the unread messages and only smirked casually. It doesn't seem fair. These words made Xia Luqing think that Bei Yunj was afraid. For Miss Pei to be valued so highly by the Hua Corporation, she must be extremely talented. We are also looking forward to Miss Pei's performance. Xia Luqing was intriguing. Since she had already said this, if Bei Yunj didn't agree, he would be mocked by the crowd. End of this chapter. Chapter 956. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and scanned her surroundings. She glanced at Wen Jiuan, who was trying. Wen Jiuan, can you lend me your computer for a while? Wen Jiuan was stunned for a moment before she handed the computer to Bei Yunj. This computer belonged to Wen Huai. The others looked at Bei Yunj and did not know what she was up to. Was she really going to try this test? Xia Luqing's eyes were filled with ridicule. A student whose grades were so bad that she could repeat a year wanted to solve Higgins's test. She was simply dreaming. Miss Pei, do you think you're better than a professional from the computing center like Zihuai? Xia Luqing looked at Bei Yunj, who kept typing on the keyboard, and burst out laughing as if she was joking. The people around felt that Bei Yunj was deliberately flattering herself. Me? Of course I'm better. Bei Yunj curled her lips and said lazily, her eyes arrogant and presumptuous. Cheng Zihuai subconsciously looked at her coldly, but he did not have time to mock her. Bei Yunj returned the computer to Wen Jiuan. Thank you. It had only been about 10 minutes. How could she solve it so quickly? Xia Luqing could not help but cover her mouth and snicker. Miss Pei can't solve it and has given up? The others were also discussing softly. Suddenly, old Madame Wen laughed. Old Madame Hua indeed dotes on her grandson, so much so that she doesn't have any requests. Old Madame Hua was about to say something when Xia Luqing's phone suddenly vibrated. When Xia Luqing picked up the call, she heard Nye Yu's voice. Congratulations, you've passed the test. I wonder which company's team made this test? Instantly, Xia Luqing's face was as pale as a sheet of paper. What did you say? Nye Yu frowned. Mr. Marcus just saw it and felt that these questions were solved very cleverly. He wants to know which team it is. Everyone present heard it clearly. Cheng Zihuai clenched his fists and his pupils constricted. He subconsciously looked at Bei Yunj. How is this possible? Mr. Nye, is it possible that these questions were leaked? As soon as Xia Luqing asked this question, old Madame Hua's gaze turned cold. She completely disliked this woman. How dare they target Bei Yunj in the Hua family? The other party seemed to be silent for a long time before saying in a low voice, these questions were set by Mr. Marcus. I can leak them, but no one can. I'm sorry, Mr. Nye. I didn't mean that. Xia Luqing's face turned red. She happened to look at Bei Yunj, who was smiling faintly. She gritted her teeth and said, it's the Hua Group's research team. Can I speak to her on the phone? Nye Yu could not help but ask. Marcus had said that although these questions were the basics, but even he might not be able to think of the solution to this answer sheet. Xia Luqing took a deep breath, but her fingernails had already sunk into her flesh. She walked in front of Bei Yunj and smiled as if nothing had happened, but she was still gritting her teeth. If Miss Pei asked someone else to do it, even if she won this project, she would be exposed. With that said, Xia Luqing turned on the speakerphone. "Hello, may I know who you are, Bei Yunj?" she said lazily. When the other party heard the name, she seemed to fall into a long silence. Nie Yu's mood instantly reached a freezing point. She put on a fake smile and asked, "Why did you do this question?" Was the research not enough for her to play with? She was still playing with them now? For the first time, President Nie wanted to beat his boss. Peace. Ahem, it's late but it's here. There's one more chapter. End of this chapter. Chapter 957. Do you think the whole corporation still has this chance? Bei Yunj rested her head on one hand and asked with curved eyes. Nie Yu wanted to curse. Could she be any more shameless than getting in through the back door openly? Didn't they agree to be fair and just? He took a deep breath and hung up the phone. Bei Yunj's phone rang. She glanced at the familiar number and immediately hung up. However, the owner of the phone number continued to call crazily. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and went upstairs with her phone. She did not forget to say calmly, "Grandma, he said that this project is ours." Old Madame Hua was speechless. Everyone was speechless. For some reason, they felt that President Nie knew Bei Yunj. They also felt that the identity of the girl in front of them was not that simple. Meanwhile, Cheng Zihuai stood where he was and looked at Bei Yunj, who did not even look at him when she went upstairs. He clenched his fists and his face turned green. He felt his face burning. How did Bei Yunj get everything right? Zihuai, can't you tell? Bei Yunj and President Nie's relationship is not ordinary, Xia Luqing said thoughtfully. Then can we get this project? Cheng Zihuai asked. Xia Luqing's face stiffened. Then she gritted her teeth and sneered. Zihuai, Higgins has more than one project this year. Just wait and see. After Xia Luqing and Cheng Zihuai left, Wen Juan was deep in thought. Until when Huai interrupted her thoughts. "Sister, where's my computer?" "Here." Wen Juan returned the computer to him. But suddenly, Wen Huai immediately stood up, giving Wen Juan a fright. "Sister, you did this question?" Wen Huai asked in disbelief. Wen Juan asked instinctively, "What question?" "It's a question left behind by our school's professor. I've been trying to solve it for half a semester, but I still can't solve it." Someone actually solved it. When Jiwan paused, she remembered that when she gave it to Bei Yunj, it seemed to be blank at this moment. When Huai couldn't wait to take a picture and send it to the professor and class group. In an instant, it caused an uproar in the class group, as well as the attention of the professors. When Huai went out to answer the call. When he heard the professor's praise, he couldn't hide his excitement. At the same time, he was also asking him who came up with the idea of solving the problem. After the chat ended, when Huai could not wait to hold Wen Jiwan's hand. "Sister, you're amazing." "It wasn't me. Someone else solved it." Wen Jiwan retracted her gaze. "Someone else?" When Huai was stunned. Wen Jiwan suddenly thought of something. "Do you know Bei Yunj?" "Bei Yunj? I don't know, but it sounds a little familiar," Wen Huai said hesitantly. "Then I don't think so." When Jiwan turned around and asked. She was really crazy. She almost suspected that Bei Yunj was the teaching assistant of Yun University's junior class. Upstairs. "What's wrong?" Bei Yunj drank water and sat on the carpet, looking at the rabbit lantern that Mo had sent her last time. "You're going through the back door and breaking the rules," Nie Yu said impartially. "Yes, in order to make my elders happy, I can only do this." Pei Qinghan smiled lazily. Nie Yu was speechless. "If there's nothing else, I'll hang up first. Remember to send the contract to the whole corporation." Bei Yunj did not forget to remind him at the end. However, after hanging up, Bei Yunj lowered her eyes and saw red spots on her body. She was allergic again. End of chapter. Chapter 958. Bei Yunj took out the box of allergy medicine from the drawer. After thinking for a moment, She took out 2 more pills and drank them with water. Although Cui Hingchuan had called her and told her that the chances of her relapse were very low and that she shouldn't take the medicine anymore. Perhaps if he ate too much, the side effects would be more than just allergies. However, Bei Yunj did not want to cause any trouble for the Hua family, especially at such an important occasion like old Madam's birthday banquet tomorrow. That night, Bei Yunj also went to bed early. In the bar, "Master Du, aren't you going to drink more?" The man who had just returned to China held a wine glass and smiled. "Su Yu, is this your first day meeting Master Du?" Whenever he drinks a little wine, he starts to ignore people. Yu Hanran shook his head. On the other hand, Tseng Su remembered the previous drinking contest between Yu Hanran and Bei Yunj. He never dared to tell Yu Hanran that he was actually beaten up by Master Du after he got drunk that time. "You guys continue drinking, this meal is on me. I'll head back first." Huashidu held a cigarette between his fingers and spoke in a light and lazy tone. "Going back just like that?" Suyu found it strange. In the past, when he returned to the old residence to stay, Huashidu was most likely unwilling to go back early. After all, old Madame Hua's desire to have a grandson had never stopped. "Suyu, you've been abroad for too long. You still don't know what kind of vixen Master Du has at home." After saying this, Huashidu glanced at him indifferently. Yu Hanran immediately changed his words. "Ancestor, I raised a little ancestor." Su Yu's interest was immediately piqued. He didn't expect such a thing to happen. "Master Du, when are you going to bring her out for a look?" "Take a look." However, she did not expect the man to nonchalantly put out the cigarette in his hand. His laziness faded as he looked up and asked, "Why? Is it for you to see?" "Su Yu, did he step on a minefield?" Su Yu and Huashidu had known each other for so many years, but he had never expected that the person Yu Hanran mentioned would have such weight in Huashidu's heart. He did not look like the Huashidu of the past at all. He looked like he had no desires. For the first time in more than 20 years, she realized that Huashidu was also possessive. "You guys continue playing." Huashidu left with his coat after saying that. Su Yu couldn't help but turn his head. "Old Han, what's the situation with Master Du's wife?" "What's the situation?" "Su Yu, listen to me. Don't provoke the one from Master Du's family. Stay as far away from her as possible." In this regard, Yu Hanran was someone who had suffered before. Su Yu hesitated. "Is her character not good?" Yu Hanran smiled. "You can't say that about her." Then, he continued, "It's just that I don't often interact with people." Su Yu, this evaluation didn't sound right no matter how he listened to it. After returning to the old house, the lights downstairs were already off. Huashidu's night vision was quite good. He did not turn on the lights and walked slowly to the second floor. However, he kept feeling that someone was secretly watching him. But when he turned around, he didn't see anyone. Huashidu returned to the bedroom. He had just finished showering and was walking to the table to pick up a book when he suddenly heard movement at the door. The man casually glanced to the side and saw the door quietly open, revealing a head. He looked at the little girl in front of him sizing up his room and couldn't help but laugh in a low voice. It was so deep and magnetic that it made one's ears burn. "Child, did you come to my room to steal something?" Not long after, Huashidu noticed that the little girl in front of him didn't seem to be acting normally. "P.S. Thank you, children, for voting for Master Pei. He is still #1 on the monthly votes list. Are there any more children who want to vote for him?" Pinch face. Chapter 959. She was also holding a brown teddy bear that was usually not very favored. Bei Yunj's usual carefree appearance was different. Her clear eyes were emotionless. She only raised her head and looked straight at the half-naked man. The man's figure was very good. His perfect abs and strong waist, as well as his faintly discernible Apollo's belt, almost made people blush. After Huashidu felt Bei Yunj sizing him up, he casually pulled off a short-sleeved shirt and put it on. "Aren't you going back to sleep?" As soon as he finished speaking, Bei Yunj suddenly pushed open the door, locked it from the inside, and walked in. Even Huashidu did not expect this series of actions. The next moment, He saw Bei Yunj walking straight towards him. She suddenly reached out and hugged his strong waist tightly. The man felt her furry head rubbing against his chest and his Adam's apple tightened. When he sorted out his emotions, his sexy Adam's apple bobbed, but his eyes turned dark. Yun. The little girl in front of him was indeed not in the right state. Bei Yunj did not let go or answer Huashidu's question. She seemed to be sleepwalking? However, he had never seen the little girl in such a state before. The man suddenly asked casually, "Do you want to eat fruit?" The atmosphere was silent for a long time. Just when Huashidu thought that Bei Yunj was unconscious, he heard her speak again. "No." Huashidu curled his lips. His pale-colored eyes were long and beautiful. Under the light, it was a reflection of day and night. He chuckled softly. His magnetic and hoarse voice was seductive as he dragged out the last syllable. "Does Yun like candy or little bears?" If it were any other time, Bei Yunj would definitely stay away from these fluffy toys and scoff at them. But at this moment, the girl said honestly, "Little bears." The smile on the man's lips deepened. He slowly reached out and tapped her head casually. "Then do you like little bears or big brothers?" Suddenly, the atmosphere fell silent. Bei Yunj glanced at Huashidu. She was a little hesitant, as if it was difficult for her to make a choice. This reaction was also unexpected in the man's eyes. Huashidu raised his eyebrows and laughed in anger. He did not expect that he could not compare to a stupid bear. He pinched her face punitively. "What do you mean, Yun? Did I dote on you for nothing?" Bei Yunj immediately said, "I like Big Brother." "Little liar." Huashidu smirked. "You even came over to take advantage of me when you were sleepwalking, huh?" The little girl in front of him looked different from usual and was indeed cute, but Huashidu was worried about Bei Yunj's safety. "Go back to your room and sleep?" After Huashidu asked, Bei Yunj immediately let go of his hand and looked at him with dissatisfaction. The man chuckled softly. He took the girl's hand and squatted down. His eyes were extremely dark, hiding all the light, but it made people's hearts beat faster. His low voice was ostentatious and seductive. Yun, do you like me that much?" The little girl who was sleepwalking was conscious, but she could not read the emotions in the man's eyes. She also squatted down and placed her hands on her knees. She looked extremely obedient, which was a huge contrast to her usual appearance. "Brother, I'll sleep with you." The man's gaze instantly darkened and became difficult to distinguish. The mole on his Adam's apple moved slightly, making people blush and their hearts beat faster. However, the culprit was looking at him seriously and quietly waiting for his reply. Chapter 960. Half an hour later. Huashidu looked at the girl sleeping on his bed, then casually retracted his gaze and walked to her side. After coaxing the girl to sleep first, he went to take a shower. However, he did not expect that when he came out, the girl seemed to have fallen asleep. He sat by the bed and caressed the girl's cheek with the back of his slender fingers. It was gentle and ambiguous, and his eyes were half dark. His deep voice was still casual. "Child, is there anything you don't want others to know?" The girl on the bed had her eyes closed. Her exquisite and bright eyes had become more docile. Huashidu gently tidied the black hair by her ear, took a thin blanket, and covered her with it. Then he carefully carried her up. At night, the man carried the girl in his arms and walked through the corridor to another bedroom. Only a small night light was turned on inside. Outside the bed, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. A corner of the dark branches was revealed, and everything was lonely. Huashidu gently placed her on the bed and tidied up the blanket. From the corner of his eye, he saw the medicine on the bedside table. One box was filled with medicine that was not properly packaged. The other box was filled with allergy medicine. The man's eyes darkened. He held the box of medicine that was not properly packaged and noticed the logo at the bottom of the back. Yuncheng Pharmaceutical Research Institute. So, Huashidu put down the medicine and walked to the balcony to make a call. If Bei Yunch heard it, she would realize that Huashidu was contacting Zhong Shenglin. "Mr. Hua, what happened?" Zhong Shenglin was about to sleep when he received a call from Huashidu. It was a little strange. What medicine did you prescribe for her? Huashidu asked straightforwardly. It's an inhibitory psychotropic medicine jointly developed by the Psychological Research Institute and Yuncheng Pharmaceutical Research Institute. After Wang Lin finished speaking, he reacted. That's not right. Ge-er is allergic to that medicine. She shouldn't be taking this medicine anymore. Allergic? Huashidu also remembered that Bei Yunj had a high fever and was hospitalized for allergies. Yes, she only discovered her allergy a while ago. This girl should have stopped by now. Don't worry. Zhong Lin responded. Zhong Lin had actually told Huashidu many things, but Bei Yunj did not know yet. She's still taking the medicine. Huashidu's eyes were so dark that they couldn't be seen clearly, and his voice was emotionless. Has she been in a bad condition recently? It's not that bad, Zhong Lin was also puzzled. Previously, when her condition was unstable, I didn't see her insist on taking this medicine. Why are you still taking this medicine when you know that you're allergic? As soon as he finished speaking, Huashidu's index finger moved slightly, as if he knew the reason. It happened to be old Madam's birthday banquet in a few days. Mr. Hua? Mr. Hua? Zhong Lin shouted a few times before Huashidu came back to his senses. His pale-colored eyes glanced at the girl behind the glass door. It's fine now. If possible, I hope Elder Zhong can send me a copy of Yunyan's physical test data in all aspects. After hanging up the phone, the man smoked a cigarette on the balcony. When the smell of smoke dissipated from his body, he entered the bedroom. Huashidu picked up the medicine on the table and glanced at Bei Yunj. He subconsciously sat over and pinched the little girl's face as if he was punishing her. Only then did he get rid of his irritable and funny anger. At the same time, his heart inevitably ached. What kind of environment did a girl have to grow up in to have a shadow of sensitivity and inferiority in the depths of her heart, no matter how outstanding and powerful she was? P.S. There's still a sugar that hasn't been written yet. Let me straighten out the plot first. End of this chapter. Chapter 961. The man took the medicine and was about to close the bedroom door and leave when he suddenly saw Alaskan sitting on the spot in a daze, looking at him with its head tilted. Suddenly, the man curled his lips and slowly opened the medicine box in his hand. When Alaskan saw this, it was instantly agitated. It lowered its voice and whimpered, looking very impatient. It did not doubt human nature at all. Huashidu handed the medicine box to Alaskan and patted its head. He smiled lazily and said, "Bite this tomorrow and let sister play with you." Alaskan whimpered and rubbed against Huashidu's pants before biting the medicine box. The next day, Bei Yunj woke up and did not notice anything strange. If she had to say that something was wrong, it would be that the medicine on the table was gone. She moved her eyebrows and realized that the door was not closed last night. After going downstairs, Bei Yunj saw Huashidu eating and sitting at the side as if nothing had happened. "Brother," Huashidu replied unhurriedly, "Did you enter my room last night?" Bei Yunj probed. However, Bei Yunj seemed to have slept very soundly last night and did not feel anything. Huashidu only glanced at her indifferently and asked slowly, "What's wrong?" "I think I lost something," Bei Yunj said. "What is it?" After Huashidu asked this, Bei Yunj instantly fell silent. She had not told Huashidu about this. "It's not anything important." Bei Yunj held a spoon and scooped the porridge. However, she still felt that only Huashidu would enter her room. Just as Bei Yunj's thoughts were running wild, suddenly, something fluffy rubbed against the side of her leg. She looked down and saw that it was Alaskan. The thing it was biting on looked very familiar. It was her medicine box. At this moment, Alaskan still wanted its owner to play with it and wagged its tail happily. Bei Yunj, all right, the culprit had appeared. "What is Alaskan biting in its mouth?" Huashidu asked calmly. Before he could look over, Bei Yunj quickly snatched the medicine box from Alyssa's mouth and smiled. "There's something dirty outside." Huashidu did not expose her. He only raised his eyebrows lightly. "Is that so?" Bei Yunj nodded in response. She maintained a smile on her face and did not notice the faint smile on the man's face. "Afternoon." Bei Yunj deducted half of the snacks in Alyssa on the grounds that it was healthy to lose weight. Although Mo's heart ached, he also felt that Alyssa had gained a lot of weight after he brought him home. Last time, the doctor had said that if Alyssa continued to gain weight, her lifespan would decrease. He waited until nightfall. Shidu walked to the long corridor and gave the listless Alyssa some snacks. Your master's temper isn't small either. Shidu combed Alaskan's fur. Alaskan seemed to be able to understand and whined pitifully. It didn't know that it was taking the blame for this man. At night, the birthday banquet was exceptionally lively. Bei Yunj stood on the balcony on the second floor. Suddenly, she heard hurried footsteps. Mr. Hua. Bei Yunj's eyebrows moved and she looked inside. Butler, are you looking for brother? The butler was stunned for a moment and could not hide the anxiety in his voice. Yes. Those people are really here again and want to take little master away. What should we do? Those people? Bei Yunj's eyes moved. End of this chapter. Chapter 962. Brother went out to answer a call. If you have anything to say, tell me. Bei Yunj threw the wine can into the trash can. Miss Pei, I'm not sure about the details. I only know that it seems to be someone from the Tang family in Continent K. Continent K? Bei Yunj knew about the existence of this continent. There were many supranational organizations in it and they were not bound by any country. Even the Indomitable Music Alliance was established in Continent K. Where's Mo? Bei Yunj walked downstairs and asked unhurriedly. Miss, the people in Continent K are not to be trifled with. You'd better. Before the butler could finish, she interrupted him. Today is the old madam's birthday banquet. Just maintain the order of the birthday banquet. The butler was also inexplicably afraid of this girl who had been brought by Mr. Hua. Bei Yunj was born with a smile. Her eyes were curved, but they were naturally intimidating. It was an aura that did not match her age. Downstairs, Bei Yunj saw that the atmosphere was not right. Everyone was whispering. She took a sip of red wine. Gullo, what's wrong? Yuman Ran was also shocked by the sudden arrival of the person. When he saw Bei Yunj, he heaved a sigh of relief. Help liven up the atmosphere. The banquet continues. Today is a joyous occasion. Bei Yunj placed the wine glass on the table and wiped her hands. What are you planning to do? Yuman Ran grabbed Bei Yunj's hand. Wait a little longer. Wait for Master Du to come back. She was worried about Bei Yunj's safety. It's not a big deal. Bei Yunj curled her lips and left the living room. Seeing this, Yuman Ran could only walk to the piano and play Spring Night Banquet. The atmosphere at the scene was slowly stirred up. On the second floor of another building around the corner, Bei Yunj heard Mo's voice, but she was speaking fluent our nation's language. It was still a childish voice, but it was filled with determination. I'm not Fernan's child, nor am I a child of the Tang family. Old Madame Hua, hiding this child won't do you any good. Besides, Mo isn't related to you by blood. Don't you know that? The people of the Tang family were calm and composed. There were more than 10 bodyguards outside the door. They had indeed come prepared. Grandma, I'm not going with them. Mo was wearing a small suit. He hugged old Madame Hua's neck tightly and whispered. Mo has been by my side since he was 1 year old. He is the biological grandson of the Hua family. Since the Tang family could be so heartless as to abandon her, they shouldn't want to take her back just because of the family's internal strife. Old Madame Hua also refused to give in. Old Madame Hua, are you refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit? The young woman sitting opposite her sneered and said in a contemptuous tone, you must know that Continent K's resources are far superior to yours. Letting Mo return to the main family is the best choice. In your dreams. Old Madame Hua sneered, unmoved. As soon as she finished speaking, the young woman suddenly smashed the cup on the table. It's just the Hua family. Do you really think that the Tang family won't dare to touch them? Actually, the Tang family was indeed afraid. They were not afraid of the Hua family, but Hua Shidu. A few years ago, They had been attacking the Hua family nonstop. In the end, they did not expect that they would retaliate against the Tang family. However, when they investigated Hua Shidu's background, they found nothing. Suddenly, a clear and lazy voice sounded. "Grandma, the birthday banquet downstairs has started." End of this chapter. Chapter 963. Old Madame Hua did not expect Bei Yunj to come up at this time. Take Mo downstairs first. Before old Madame Hua could finish speaking, the older man suddenly spoke. "Old Madame Hua, I came here to discuss with you. It's better for Mo to stay here." More than 10 bodyguards blocked the corridor. Bei Yunj put her phone back and glanced at them leisurely. Then she smiled lazily and said, "Grandma, let me entertain the guests. You can go downstairs first." "But," Bei Yunj whispered into old Madame Hua's ear, "go and find brother." Old Madame Hua frowned. She was still worried about Bei Yunj's safety. You go down first. There are too few desserts downstairs. Grandma, remember to get someone to prepare more. I haven't had dinner yet." Bei Yunj's tone was lazy, but she did not allow anyone to object. Old Madame Hua saw that Bei Yunj's attitude was firm, so she could only purse her lips and prepare to go downstairs to call Hua Shidu before rushing up. However, she did not expect that Bei Yunj would simply close the door to the living room. "Who are you?" Tang Shi's tone became even colder. Mo held Bei Yunj's hand. No matter how afraid she was, she still coaxed Bei Yunj. "Sister, don't be afraid. I will protect you." Bei Yunj smiled and hugged Mo to her side. Her tone was casual, but she could not hide the coldness in her voice. "When are you going to get lost?" This was also Bei Yunj's bottom line. The old madame's birthday banquet was interrupted just like that. "How dare you? How dare you speak to us like that?" Tang Shi and the rest's gazes turned cold. They did not expect that there would be someone in Country A who dared to provoke their Tang family. Bei Yunj's bright eyes were unrestrained. Her deep eyes seemed to be bloodshot, but she lowered her eyes to hide her cleanness. She licked her lips and asked slowly, "What's wrong? You want to fight?" "I won't abide by the rules of Country A. If you dare to stop us, you can see if you have the life to do so." Tang Qian was arrogant and her eyes were cold. She picked up the gun and pointed it at Bei Yunj. However, the older man beside her felt that this girl was not simple. "I'm Tang Weiming, ranked 5th in Continent K's Tang family. Little girl, do you know what kind of existence our Tang family in Continent K is?" Tang Weiming narrowed his eyes. She wanted to pressure Bei Yunj. "Continent K has its own rules. Aren't you afraid of offending people by coming to our Yun city to snatch people?" Bei Yunj's lips suddenly curled into a smile. She stood up and walked over to Tang Shi in a few steps. Tang Shi subconsciously pointed the gun at Bei Yunj and her gaze turned cold. Bei Yunj sneered and pressed her chest against the muzzle of the gun. "Miss, do you think we don't dare to open it?" Tang Weiming asked coldly. It was the first time she met a girl of this age who was not afraid of death. Bei Yunj's eyes were wild and unruly. She said slowly and playfully, "If you touch me, the Tang family will be buried with me." Tang Shi was instantly enraged. She gritted her teeth and loaded the gun. But, unexpectedly, suddenly, a red ray of light was pressed against her chest. Tang Shi was stunned and her body stiffened. Tang Weiming also came back to her senses. "What's going on?" Your head." The subordinate's face turned pale. Tang Weiming happened to glance at the mirror beside her and found that there was also a red dot on her forehead. It was a long-range gun and it was aimed at them. The dozens of bodyguards around them were also aimed at. End of chapter. Chapter 964. Just as Tang Shi was panicking, she suddenly heard the sound of a helicopter's propeller outside the window. "Hello, everyone. I'm the captain of the Falcon team from Country A's 1st District." Lu Zhongzhou's voice came from the balcony through the electric current. "As for the lady inside, don't tell me you want to try and see whose gun is faster?" This time, the Tang family completely reacted. The person outside was a soldier from this country. Who exactly are you? Tang Weiming gritted his teeth and glared at Bei Yunj with red eyes. His face was slightly distorted. He didn't expect that one day he would fail in such a small task. Tang Shi's hands also stiffened. After hearing those words, she almost couldn't hold the gun. Bei Yunj glanced at him slowly. His eyes curved as he asked unhurriedly, "Are you qualified to know?" These words made Tang Weiming and Tang Shi's expressions extremely ugly. However, it had only been 10 minutes since Bei Yunj walked in, and so many people from the country had appeared. This proved that Bei Yunj's identity was not simple. At the same time, someone broke through the door and entered. "Miss Pei, are you all right?" "I'm fine." After Bei Yunj answered, he held Mo's hand and led him out of the door. At the door, old Madame Hua was a little surprised by this situation. When she saw Bei Yunj, she came back to her senses. These people are, Grandma, bring Imo downstairs. I still have some things to deal with." Bei Yunj didn't say much, but old Madame Hua could also sense that these people knew Bei Yunj. "Okay, come down early too." Old Madame Hua could only nod. "What's wrong with these people? They don't look like people from our country." Lu Zhongzhou narrowed his eyes and sized up those people. "Yes, they're from the Tang family of Continent K." Bei Yunj looked at Tang Weiming and the others who were tied up and escorted downstairs. "What continent?" Lu Zhongzhou's body instantly froze. "Continent K, the Tang family." Bei Yunj reminded him gently. "Lu Zhongzhou, how did this ancestor offend the people of Continent K? Even he didn't know much about the independent forces in Continent K. Did he offend a force from Continent K without even leaving his house?" Lu Zhongzhou took a deep breath. "Bei Yunj, the forces in Continent K are no joke. You should be more careful next time." "Will it give you a lot of trouble?" Bei Yunj asked. Lu Zhongzhou was stunned for a moment. His hand, which was wearing a black leather glove, caressed Bei Yunj's head. "Your age and your talent are the hope of our country, eh? No one wants anything to happen to you. Uncouth people like us have never seen any amazing scientists in our lives, so we also want to see you reach the top. Being able to protect you is also a merit that we can take out." Back then, the higher-ups had originally discussed sending Bei Yunj to Nili University to receive the highest level of education and let Lu Zhongzhou and the others protect her. However, they never thought that Bei Yunj's growth would exceed everyone's imagination. The 19-year-old Farizik Prize. The 19-year-old Busaka nomination. Bei Yunj's results had turned the academic circle upside down. However, they were also careful and signed an agreement with some people in the academic circle not to disclose her age to the public. In other countries, the academic circle also avoided having anything to do with the political circle. Of course, there were very few undercover scholars. No matter how young the other countries guessed, they probably never thought that her real age was only around 20. Lu Zhongzhou had just escorted her downstairs when he heard someone calling Bei Yunj. The man's voice was pleasant and familiar to Lu Zhongzhou. He turned around and was stunned when he saw Huashidu's face clearly. "Brother." Bei Yunj had just walked up to Huashidu when she saw him holding her favorite cake. Huashidu handed the cake to Bei Yunj. "It looks like there are guests at home." Bei Yunj took the cake bag. Before she could speak, she heard Lu Zhongzhou probe, "Sir, have we met somewhere before?" Lu Zhongzhou had been to Continent K on a mission. He seemed to have seen this person there before, but he could not be sure. "We have indeed met before. I saw you in the war zone." The man looked elegant and noble. He was wearing a black suit and a long coat. His temperament was light and lazy, and his pale-colored eyes were indifferent. Lu Zhongzhou hesitated. "Is that so?" "God, Lu, isn't your method of investigation too old-fashioned?" The team member beside him said. Lu Zhongzhou hid his panic. "What nonsense are you talking about? I just think that Mr. Hua is too handsome and I'm afraid that Miss Pei will be deceived." The team member muttered, "Who in the war zone doesn't know that you and God Tan raised Miss Pei as a daughter?" Huashidu's face was indeed too aggressive. His temperament was ascetic and cold, but his pair of peach blossom eyes could make people blush. The scumbag vibe of a refined scum was vividly reflected on him. What nonsense are you talking about? Lu Zhongzhou was interrupted by his team member and forgot his original thoughts. Not long after, Huashidu knew what had happened and was not in a hurry to interrogate the people from Continent K. Instead, he arranged for a separate living room and invited Lu Zhongzhou and the rest to have a cake with Bei Yunj. After all, their identities were special. In the room, Huashidu's slender index finger tapped the cigarette between his fingers as he narrowed his eyes and watched the video in the living room. When he saw Tang Shi pointing a gun at Bei Yunj, he bit his cigarette lazily. The cigarette but instantly turned scarlet red and spat out a circle of white smoke. However, in the eyes of Tang Shi and the rest, the man's careless appearance was the prelude to danger. Master Du, Zhou Yu rushed over and nodded slightly at Huashidu. He did not look at the Tang family. Huashidu, the Tang family will not let you off. If you dare to touch us, the Tang family will definitely avenge us. The woman shouted in a sharp voice. Huashidu only raised his eyes slightly and glanced at her indifferently. He sneered. Zhou Yu, ask her to call the Tang family. Under Tang Shi's flustered and guarded gaze, Zhou Yu took out her phone and called the Tang family. Xianxian, come back quickly. Tang Shi wanted to ask for help, but the words were stuck in her throat. She could not help but look at the man not far away. She had an ominous feeling. Dad, what's wrong? Tang Shi's voice trembled slightly. At home, the Tang family is finished. The Tang family is completely finished. The middle-aged man on the other end of the phone sounded pained. I shouldn't have provoked him. Now, the Tang family is going to be gone. Tang Weiming's body stiffened. What did you say? Brother? Wei Ming, I can't protect the Tang family anymore. Beg Huashidu and ask him to give us a way out, okay? Take it that brother begs. Before he could finish speaking, the call was hung up. End of chapter. Chapter 965. Zhou Yu put his phone aside. Miss Tang, I've explained the situation to you. Tang Shi's entire body was trembling. It was obvious that the man in front of her had long been prepared to touch the Tang family. She gritted her teeth. Huashidu, I'm Mo's aunt. The Tang family is Mo's family. If you do this, Mo will hate you. The man looked up at her. His pale-colored eyes were devoid of desire and his emotions could not be discerned. Tang Shi subconsciously swallowed her saliva. Let me go. Tie her up and throw her into the police station. With that said, Huashidu put out the cigarette in his hand and ignored the screams inside. He pushed the door open and left. However, he did not expect to see a small figure in front of him when he lowered his head. The boy looked exquisite and tender. He looked at him with his big obsidian-like eyes. Huashidu slowly squatted down and looked at him casually. He flicked Mo's forehead with his index finger. What are you doing here? Mo rubbed his forehead that did not hurt and tiptoed to hug Huashidu's neck. Brother, don't tell me you don't want Mo anymore? He sniffed and his voice was soft and uneasy. I worked very hard to learn Chinese and listen to brother and grandma. I will protect you when I grow up. The man reached out to pull the child away and gently wiped away the tears on his face. Is that so? You even made the Chinese teacher leave in a fit of anger. Mo, who else did you kiss this morning? Huashidu slowly reopened the score. Mo's small body froze. Before Bei Yunj returned last night, Mo had promised Huashidu with his dignity as a man that he would not secretly kiss Bei Yunj. However, this morning, Mo thought that Huashidu was not around and hugged Bei Yunj coquettishly, so he took the opportunity to kiss him. He even said bad things about his brother. Go downstairs and eat cake. The man rarely carried the little guy personally. Mo leaned on the man's shoulder and muttered, Brother, you are my most important family member. I don't want others to hurt you. Not even the Tang family. Huashidu said slowly, then don't skip class. Mo, downstairs. Bei Yunj sent Lu Zhongzhou and the others off. She held the cake in her hand and had already prepared a draft in her heart. She was going to explain it to Huashidu later. After all, Some of the guests had seen Lu Zhongzhou's sudden arrival. How could Huashidu not be suspicious? When Bei Yunj thought of this, she subconsciously turned her head. She almost bumped into the man. Bei Yunj looked up and saw Huashidu clearly. Her expression did not change. "Brother." Huashidu glanced at her and his gaze landed on her cake. He slowly picked up a small spoon and dug out a piece to taste it. The man raised his eyebrows. "It's too sweet." Bei Yunj hesitated. "This is mine." She had also used the spoon just now. Huashidu glanced at her leisurely and scooped another spoonful of the cake in Bei Yunj's hand. "Open your mouth." "What?" Bei Yunj was about to speak when she was suddenly fed a spoonful of cake. The sweet taste of cake and sweet fruits spread on her taste buds, making her feel happy. However, Bei Yunj was stunned by Huashidu's actions. Bei Yunj, all right, this man must have thought that she was unhappy because he ate her cake. At the thought of this, Bei Yunj suddenly noticed something and the way she looked at Huashidu changed slightly. She subconsciously took a step back and asked tentatively, "Brother, did you drink?" End of chapter. That you're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.